Hello.
Today we talk with Brendan Rawson. He's the executive director for San Jose Jazz. Hey, Brendan, how you doing?
Daniel. I'm doing good. It's good to hear you.
It's good to hear you. I mean, I know we are in the same office space, but we haven't seen each other more than 3 times this entire year.
Right? You're not
Eh,
here today, are you?
no, are you there?
Yeah, I am. I'm at the office. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we could have been actually in our different offices with the doors closed, social distance, and not even know it.
That's
But
true.
yeah. So I do want to just kind of ask you all kinds of wonderful questions and stuff like that. And I'm not going to focus on your COVID beard that you've been working on.
Uh, okay, good.
But is it still going? You haven't shaved it yet?
No, I have not. It still has its life of its own. We'll see how long it keeps going. But yeah, it was January of whatever last year. Last time I had a
Okay.
haircut.
Yeah. Well, is kind of the plan to do it like then once, we move into whatever the green tier it comes off or
Well, you know what? It was all waiting until January 20th. So
oh,
we've passed the inauguration, and
yeah.
I'm whatever that was a thing of a date that I kind of had out there for myself of maybe I'll take it off at once we sort of enter into that new year kind of idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah.
but,
Cut off the old.
yeah.
Yeah. So hey, I have to say, I'm so curious, and I think we might have talked about it before, but you seem, when I think of like some of the key people that represent kind of like downtown San Jose, you are like one of those folks. Like what is your history with downtown? How did
Huh.
you, because you seem very, like you've been a part of like, even like, like the different renaissance of San Jose development or phases. You seem to kind of have been around in different ones. What did you grow up in downtown or what?
Gotcha. Yeah,
Like
you've
what's?
been here forever. What the hell?
Yeah,
Oh,
right. That was trying to say it in a nice way.
oh, yeah, it's a good question. Well, I thought we were going to be just talking all about soccer all day.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah, it's yeah, I grew up here or whatever, Santa Clara Valley. I grew up over Santa Clara, Sunnyvale sort of border, right? Sort of over Lawrence
Hmm.
Expressway. And childhood, I think, well, it's immediately back to soccer, right? I think some immediate
Yeah,
early experiences or connections of downtown San Jose were coming to San Jose Earthquake games at Spartan Stadium, and I think just
yeah.
driving through downtown in the
Hmm.
back of the Country Squire, right, with my nose
Yeah,
pressed up against, just sort of a different, visual or neighborhood, urban sort of context, kind of probably speaking some curiosity to me from growing up out in,
yeah,
out there, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara area. But I
yeah.
think really probably started for me would have been me and some friends back high school age. This is back into the '80s. Would have
Hmm.
been coming downtown to the San Jose Peace Center, and sort of
Oh,
getting
okay.
involved with different issues back at that time. So the Peace Center,
Yeah,
still there on Seventh Street,
yeah,
and back then that was really so Cold War timeframe issues, and really issues around um, nuclear weapons proliferation, and
yeah.
you're really sort of getting activated through involvement with the Peace Center, and making road trips out to the Nevada test site, and
Oh wow,
getting arrested on the test site,
wow.
as a young person, but sort of getting that was sort of like that interest of engagement. I think had started
Hmm.
through there, and I think as sort of like kind of age frame, like going to De Anza College, so like
Hmm.
1920, um, or I guess probably earlier would have been coming down. Yeah, there was the Phoenix bookstore, which is used to be on San
Yeah.
Pedro Square, and just involved with that sort of period, and some
Hmm.
involvement with really checking out local music scene and
Yeah.
opportunities to find stuff that was going on, and um, there are all ages opportunities for some performance things that would happen.
Was it like the Cactus Club? Was that kind
Yeah,
of
Cactus
one
Club
of
was
your
a big one,
spots?
right? That was a lot of
Yeah.
stuff came through. There was actually over in Santa Clara, actually, when I think about music wise, there was one step beyond. which was out there in the. Do
Oh,
you
yeah,
remember that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that was probably earliest, probably all ages shows for myself, and that probably was actually to your question about connecting with downtown was connecting with individuals that have then long time been associated with sort of cultural energy of downtown San Jose. I think that's like, for example, when I would have first met Chris Esparza, who was the
yeah,
doorman at at One Step, and
yeah,
sort of sparked long time, lifelong sort of friendship and stuff from that kind of spilled over into different creative enterprises and
yeah,
projects.
yeah, definitely. I mean, even you guys had to open a restaurant together,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Me, Chris,
Yeah, a venue.
and Louis Silva uh, opened
Yeah,
the garage over there in Nagley Park.
yeah, yeah. And then that morphed into a different restaurant
Oh
project,
yeah, yeah. We did
Blackbird
after that. We
Tavern.
did
Yeah,
Blackbird Tavern, which was
yeah,
on Paseo de San Antonio, or sort of right there at First Street. We did that for a
yeah.
couple of years. Not as long of a run as we
So,
had with the garage. Uh,
yeah. So that's kind of, I mean, that just kind of goes to proof that, some of the best relationships you can make are in clubs.
I, I, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I think that's part of it was a little bit of that pub culture. I think as sort of great public gathering spaces,
yeah,
conversations, philosophizing, all that things that's associated with you know a good pub culture, that whether that or cafe culture, whatever you want to speak to it as, but where
yeah,
you meet interesting people, and you have cross paths with folks who do different things than are maybe in your immediate life, and get exposed to new ideas and new things, and um,
yeah,
yeah. So I think each of us, Lou, Chris, and I, back then, we were really we had all actually worked together. Um, for at a place, the Ajax Lounge, which was up
yeah,
above, where Stritch is now,
yeah,
and that was a really wonderful experience. A tremendous amount of really creative, interesting folks that came through that place during the years that it was operating. But it always left an
yeah,
impression, I think, on Chris, Lou, and I on thinking about what is it that makes for great community, gathering places like that. And
yeah,
that's really what inspired us to try and start the garage when we did that venture.
yeah. That's awesome. Well, and then you're still really in that type of field with San Jose Jazz to like kind of really cultivating spaces and opportunities for people to engage with each other and with art, right?
I hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you are.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's fundamentally about bringing people together through music. I think what's interesting about this, uh, role in the nature of San Jose Jazz, right, was basically, we've been basically itinerant, right, in the sense that we don't have a
Yeah.
performance venue, and
Yeah.
we put on the large festivals that folks know us for, but it's
Hmm.
really about finding and creating spaces that are these sort of common ground areas that bring people together around sort of exploring and appreciating music. Um,
Yeah.
so that's been kind of a lot of what I feel I've tried to bring to the role is
Yeah.
how and where do we use music to accomplish those community building, you efforts.
Yeah. So, how did you? I mean, did you always have an interest in jazz? And because when I think about it, I mean, I like jazz. I would, I have my favorites, Chet Baker, but but like I would never like to be in a position to run San Jose Jazz. I feel like the knowledge you would have to have of the jazz scene, culture, history is overwhelming. But have you always been
Huh. Yeah.
into jazz, or has it kind of always been music in general, or
It's an interesting question, yeah, because jazz can, give that impression of, of inaccessibility, right? Is it complicated, or what's the joke? why don't they just play the right note?
Or more just, yeah, it's a nuanced sub music in some ways, right? Of
Right.
from, well, compared to pop music, yeah.
Yeah, it can kind of be uh, for sometimes feel a bit inaccessible. But I guess my experience with it has been well. First of all, yeah, I'm not a musician. uh, Never have had this sort of experience of learning an instrument or anything like that. So
Hmm.
it's been a curiosity, a little bit of coming to it. I've always,
Hmm.
loved music. I hope I like to
Yeah,
think a wide range, of music interest.
yeah,
Um, in some ways, for me, it's still as not being a musician, it's still so incredibly magical to me. Right?
yeah. Yeah,
I'm
totally.
just so amazed with what they do and what they're able to create, and so uh, it's something that's just a pure joy in that sense for myself.
Yeah,
But I think in terms of with jazz, um, like you said, you had some like basic cursory, you love Billie Holiday or you love,
right.
Coltrane or something like that. You sort of exposed to, or your first time
Yeah,
hearing Kind of Blue or something like that. So I had,
yeah,
just that level of appreciation, but not great understanding. And I think there was probably two experiences for me that really helped advance that. One was I'd say after college here, after undergrad, I lived in New York for a couple of years, and the organization I was working with, there was an older gentleman who really served as a mentor and really gave an opportunity to sort of show me New York for one thing, right? Just all that
yeah.
New
Cool.
York has to offer, and
Yeah, yeah.
he sort of gave me the sort of little the glimpses into the sense of the New York jazz scene, and oh my
Hmm.
gosh, talk about an inspiring sort of
Yeah,
scene and community and a feeling of that energy. So that was something that sort of whet the appetite for, wanting more. And then,
yeah,
I think probably after that would have been, you know, coming back here, working in San Jose with working at Ajax. There was,
hmm,
the two Chris's, Chris Esparza and Chris Elliman, as part of the
yeah,
programming there, would present some excellent local and touring routed jazz performance that
yeah,
sort of contemporary, young artists that did not know otherwise, but it allowed you to get to see this art form very alive and present in your city and in your life,
yeah.
and that was really energizing, and I met actually other individual there, like at the bar, like like you said.
Here we go again. There's a theme in your
Yeah,
life.
right,
You are Irish, so
right. It was just a gentleman who was a regular. You know him, I think. Raul Lozano heads Valley Verde.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So Raul, a big music fan, he'd come in all the time to check out shows at Ajax, and I just got to know him from working there and just chatting up, um, and he just as another sort of mentor and great friend, just exposed me to more music, and I think took me to sort of first shows for me ever seen up at Yoshi's, the old Yoshi's when it was on out in
yeah,
Ashby. Um, and I think it was McCoy Tyner and his Latin All Stars. I think David Sanchez was in that lineup, uh,
hmm,
and I think that's an interesting part about jazz, right? There is um, this great traditions around mentorship in the art form,
yeah,
even as
hmm,
musicians, but also as fans, like people turning each other on to different
yeah,
artists and new artists, and so I think that as I've come into it has just been a real joy. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff of the music that I don't know, but it's always been a sense of folks wanting to share what they found, and
yeah,
that's been a pretty darn inspiring to get to be able to work in and be a part of.
yeah. So when you were at Ajax, what was your job? What was your role?
Breaking glasses. I was
That's what Chris and Chris would
yeah,
say.
right. I was a barback. I just
Okay.
yeah, washing dishes and cleaning up and enjoying the music.
Yeah.
I didn't have the personality or as a bartender or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a
But
wonderful cast of
yeah.
characters that worked there, that came through there, and built a community
Yeah.
around it. It's always been a sort of an inspiring sort of touchstone for me when I think about the possibilities of for downtown San Jose. How do you create
Yeah.
spaces that bring that breadth of cultural experience, energy, interesting folks, together?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's cool. I mean, I was just thinking about that is like, how interesting it is like you were a bar back in the restaurant and Raul comes in and talks to you and exposes you and then years later now you're running, I guess, you're the executive director, CEO. What is it? The El
yeah.
Jefe of San Jose Jazz, right? And the thing is, it just made me think of like, who's the barbacks and the baristas, that we interact with on a regular basis that 10 years from now can be running some wonderful different organizations and cultural organizations,
Great
right?
point.
Which kind of goes back to your mentorship idea. And I feel that with you. I feel like you have that sense of like, someone who comes into a space who is connecting with other people. And that tradition is kind of carrying on, I think, throughout. And that's what the good thing about downtown San Jose is that there's kind of that kind of blood here.
I hope so. I hope we're able to keep building on that. I think you're absolutely right. There's some fascinating young folks. I mean, I'm primarily seeing it in the music jazz realm these days
Mm-hmm.
from young
Mm-hmm.
folks that come through um,
Yeah.
our programs or are involved, say, with our Boombox initiative
Yeah.
things, and that that desire to connect folks to other opportunities. I sure
Yeah.
hope that we keep growing a local cultural scene that keeps presenting opportunities to folks find their area that they're able to sort of grow themselves and uh,
Yeah.
contribute in. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that was the thing. I mean, I definitely want to find out. We'll talk more about what Sound Like Jazz is doing, but I don't want to downplay your role that and what they're doing. But at the same time, though, I've just been really been impressed, and your especially within COVID, and even before when AB5 was coming along, and then your role with the San Jose Arts Advocates, and then what you're doing kind of for the downtown District 3 COVID task force. Um, I was amazed at how involved you are on kind of like these cultural arts boards, initiatives, and I've always impressed with that. And then actually just to kind of hear that you originally started up, kind of going to, no nukes
yeah,
rallies. I didn't know that about you. So what? So you kind of always had a little bit of I guess, an activist bone or
bent maybe.
bent, yeah,
I would like to think so. I hope so. Um, I think maybe that's sort of inspired from older brothers and sisters, perhaps,
mm-hmm.
and kind of helped shape that idea of you know what does it want to do with your life? What do you want to be engaged around? Where do you want to put your energies? Um,
Were they involved in kind of like social issues and projects and
some of
stuff?
them.
Because you have like 27 brothers and sisters or something like that.
Close. Uh,
Like 11. You're one of 11,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm the youngest of 11. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so some of them were. It's not, by
Yeah.
just by the nature of the size of it, right? You're bound to have.
Right. Exactly.
And I think I found that sort of inspiring to some that were involved with whatever it is that they were engaged with, whether they were teachers or other sorts of roles. That the meaningfulness and purpose and joy that they were finding in that work, and I think
Yeah.
that um, sort of had me curious to engage around these things. I think to your
Yeah.
question about involvement with all these other stuff, um, yeah, it's interesting. I actually maybe it circles back, like I mentioned, that conversation with the with Raul Lozano, and that he
Mm-hmm.
had had been one of the influencers to me in sort of opening up the door to the wonderful world of jazz. I remember at the
Yeah.
time he was also he was serving as the executive director for Teatro Vision,
Oh, yeah.
and he's always working it as an AD of trying to find opportunities to advance his organization's work. And I think he saw in me as like, hey, y'all, you're educated. You're whatever. You
Yeah.
how about you do some grant writing for me and help out?"
Oh yeah.
And so he kind of roped me into volunteering and getting engaged with Teatro Vision, and
Yeah.
it was kind of intriguing to me at that time because I didn't have any real interest or exposure around theater prior to that, and I kind of
Mm.
almost felt
Mm-hmm.
as an unknown to me. I guess I would even say off-putting by it. I just thought, theater just seems,
Sure.
weird, not
Yeah.
not something I was inclined to. But I think, I wanted to be helpful to a friend, and
Yeah.
wanted to do a good job with like the grant writing. I said, I thought, like, I better find something about this art form that I dig,
Mm.
that I find inspiring, uh, as so that I could do a good job with it,
Yeah.
and then that too, that just then opened up this whole world to theater, and it's like theater is probably, favorite art form. It just been so taken
Yeah.
by, great theater, is just so
Yeah.
powerful.
The yeah, music, storytelling, dancing, choreography, set design, lighting, right?
Yeah, I think for
Yeah.
me was the is for some reason, even though it's obviously it's performance, but something about the word, they're not the written word, but drama. Yeah, I
Mhm.
certainly there's some great musical and stuff like that that I enjoy, but I think I was really drawn to like intense, small theater,
Yeah.
and it just it opened up the whole doorway to particularly around Chicano theater and the history in our region,
Mhm.
and um, a living in art form that there's some
Yeah.
great writers doing wonderful work. Octavio Solis, who we produced a few times through Teatro
Mhm.
Vision, or um, Roy Conboy, or these other folks that just really it was a big impact on me. So I ended up serving on the board for Teatro Vision for like 10 years,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
I think that sort of springboard me because we were small. We were like a $40,000 budget organization,
Mhm.
and sort of grew that, at least tenfold, over that time
Yeah.
frame, and that just gave me a lot of exposure to learning nonprofit management stuff, and trying to
Yeah.
grow a community based organization. And the folks that Elisa, Marina Alvarado, and Raul and stuff, there was just an outstanding community around that group.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So yeah, so then now you've been involved with San Jose Arts Advocates, and especially even with the COVID District 3, I think it is, task force. I'm not sure what other groups have you been involved. Are you a part of the ALF downtown core too?
Um,
Are you a part of
I
that?
I think it's the urbanist thing.
Yeah.
I'm not specifically. I am involved with an ALF Arts, American Leadership Forum, sort of group of
Yeah.
arts, like EDs and folks, and that
Yeah.
has been a forum around which we've been able to advance some of these issues I think you're touching on, like how has the pandemic, and other issues from 2020 around, issues around equity, um,
Mm-hmm.
social strife related to race and
Mm-hmm.
white supremacy that's sort of been brought to the fore this year, and
Yeah.
that's been a good forum to think, okay, well, how does the arts really um, you know come forward, and what can it bring to the table in helping
Yeah.
sort of move our community forward through this period. Um,
What would you say then? Being a part of these different boards and meetings and discussions, what do you kind of see or hope for the San Jose art scene, including San Jose jazz, um, as the effort for equity and inclusion and diversity and social um, transformation?
um, I'm hopeful that, yeah, so much stuff is there. There's kind of like this. massive pause button, right? That was pushed pushed on some things, right?
Yeah.
With the pandemic, and like it has caused a lot of us, different parts of our lives, to the opportunity to take a little bit of a step back and think, is the effort and energy and things that resources that putting into whatever direction, is that the
Hmm.
best thing to be doing? And when I think about for downtown, right, things have been kind of chugging along, right, the past couple of years prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
All this news of things like the whole, um, you know, the the Diridon station development with BART, or maybe
Yeah.
high speed rail and Google and that whole
Yeah.
part of downtown, or Jay
Yeah.
Paul from San Francisco, that was a developer coming to town and buying up the whole City View Plaza area and
Yeah.
doing that, or urban community, and things were just, um, it just had this momentum of its own, right? Kind of tied to this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
San Jose is finally becoming this capital of Silicon
Yeah.
Valley thing, and I felt like, in my back of my head, there's a fair amount of worry about the way that this stuff was being talked about, and the sort of the
Hmm.
nature of where that development was going. Um,
Hmm. You mean in the sense that it was more gentrifying, or
Yeah, yeah,
what do you
a
mean?
bit. I guess that for very immediate for me, like when you hear these talks of like, oh, what we're going to build out for the downtown West Google area, um,
Hmm.
and it sounds just like a glorified, business park type of thing, like what Google has done in
Right.
Mountain View, and nothing necessarily wrong against that. It maybe fits the Mountain View or the shoreline sort of area, but this
Hmm.
is just supposed, or thought of as an urban core for the
Yeah.
region,
Yeah.
and that those the necessarily design approaches and the idea of thinking of what makes for a good urban place doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
translate, and I think we needed to give a lot more thought to thinking about what is going to be a good urban setting that's has is accessible to all sorts of income levels, that has job opportunities for all different skill levels, that
Yeah.
creates the type of rich urban experience that you'd want for a downtown. Um,
Yeah.
so that part to me, I think, so the idea of, I think, with the pause of the pandemic has given the opportunity to take a little bit of a step back and think, okay, where do we really want this downtown area to sort of go? What does that
Hmm.
really sort of look like? And it doesn't have to be just on automatic pilot like uh, office developments and all these things are um,
Yeah.
just unfolding in front of us, but to shape it. And I'm hopeful
Yeah.
that the arts um, can could be a resource for rethinking the idea of downtown, because I mean there's a lot of talk right now, right, of what is the future of urban centers as
Yeah.
job centers, right? The idea of the home, working from home, um,
Right.
issues impacting office real estate. There's that big news, right, just yesterday, of Salesforce announcing whatever they were saying for their building
Yeah.
in San Francisco, of letting folks work from home almost permanently, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And um, is the idea that how might we deploy or engage through the arts to come up with a more uh, comprehensive strategy that's creating a vibrant cultural place, and a place that has economic opportunity for all of San Jose residents.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, and also too, I just want to commend you for being involved in all those kind of groups and conversations. They've they they tire me out really quick.
Yeah,
I don't have. I'm not a patient person, so I appreciate you doing it, representing us and me. Thank you.
no problem.
Um, yeah, and so then so San Jose Jazz. This could sound it's an interesting year. You guys have really came out of the gate. I thought very creative with the doing the what was it the living room couch
Oh yeah,
Monday Tuesday couch concerts, or I can't
live from
remember the
home,
name of it.
live from home.
Yeah, live from home. Yeah, right. Really kind of doing it. Um, so rather than kind of like going through each wonderful thing that you've done, people can check that out. But what would you say is like what was has been kind of the what have you seen as kind of been the blessing out of this time that you can see is going to shape kind of like the future or moving forward for San Jose Jazz?
Huh. Um, Interesting. I guess. Well, one thing that we're sort of it's very concrete was given that we don't know when we'll be able to do live performance with an audience
Mm-hmm.
yet or again, and we had started that live from home series like you said was engaging with artists in their own home
Yeah.
studios or their own home space, and
Well, and just and to have them to have their own tip button on it was great, right? Really supporting the artists. Anyways, continue.
yeah, it was something that we were fortunate to have some enough capacities to pivot in that way and get that ramped up and going and just be able to connect with artists that we're involved with over the years that we had connections to and create a forum that to sort of try to keep bringing music fans and musicians together in some way and
Yeah.
be a conduit by which folks could support those artists through through contributions, and it worked pretty well in that regard. There was
Yeah.
some rough spots, just normally
Sure.
audio, video, challenges, and trying to we want to present the art in a great way and give it the respect that it deserves, and that
Yeah.
kind of started us thinking like, what could we do? The office we share a similar office space,
Yeah.
so we had with this space, it has this large open area, and we had thought. This could be an interesting opportunity. Massimo, our marketing director, had brought it up when we had first moved in here, and at the time
Yeah. Yeah.
before pandemic, it was kind of like not something that was on our agenda. We've been busy
Yeah.
with a ton of other stuff, but when the pandemic started, it sort of like kind of revisited the idea is like this actually might be a really appropriate thing for us to undertake, and one of the collaborators here in the building, right, this building serves as almost like this art center. You got a few different
Yeah.
folks that are here. One of them's Chamber of Music America, or not Chamber, I'm sorry, San Jose Chamber Orchestra, and they
Yeah.
had a beautiful Steinway that they had brought in with them, and it's like,
It was
oh
just
man,
sitting in
that's
the lobby. Yeah.
right? It's gorgeous. It's and the opportunity to have that be a bit of a centerpiece around which we could build out a music performance kind of studio setting for streaming. And so
Yeah.
we've been working on that. We're about to launch that. I think that's going to be um, like you said, maybe a blessing or a thing that we take away from this that we'll
Yeah.
be able to have this forum and be able to uh, present artists in a great way, capture their recordings, uh, and give it that respect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I'm excited about it. And, you know, it's kind of fun about too, is just being in that space and then the kind of like the synergy and relationships with, you know, Local Color being in the basement and then with Andrew and Patron being down there working on their video projections,
Yeah,
right? And then now having it, you know, the performances to be able to be project along the wall there so people can see it from what is that street? San Carlos. I haven't been there so long. um, and you know, so yeah, it's kind of like a lot of fun things
agreed. Right, and
going
Cinequest
on.
moved in upstairs. They're up
Yeah,
there, and
yeah,
who else is here? There's a few Cultura Marketing and um,
yeah, yeah,
and it really is kind of informally developed into this sort of art center. You got Collide, the our
yeah.
next
Right
door.
next to it. Yeah, yeah,
I hope it can be a
yeah,
springboard for us as things start to come back. That it can be uh, something for Sofa District that or there's a energy for with the arts and each of the organizations can find some things to collaborate on that we can bring out outside the building, uh, have
yeah,
people check out.
yeah. It'd be great. Um, so, what would you say then for you? What is your kind of like life philosophy or mission? What would you say? Like, you know, you're about. What are you about at the core?
Oh boy. Um, Geez, Daniel. I don't think I'm offhand introspective in necessarily, or I shouldn't say that of
No, I yeah,
but but I mean, I haven't, that sort of life mission idea, maybe, it's not
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
I've laid out. I think I've enjoyed and continue to find just rewarding and purposeful experience around being in service to the idea of what the arts can do in so many
Mm.
different ways. My background, my studies and my prior work experience and things like that were much more in the realm of economic development, community development sorts of issues. So I
Mm.
really
Okay.
didn't, I'm come to the arts from from an education or experience with the arts.
Were you kind of originally thinking like you would do uh, city planning or something along those lines? Is that
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
kind of what
I
you're?
used to work for an economic development consulting firm. We would do
Okay.
regional economic planning with cities and around the globe. Lot of
Yeah.
stuff here in the Western United States. Um, but it was kind of actually through that work and sort of looking at the ideas of how communities and regions were really differentiating themselves. So many places really became tuned into this idea of uh, competing for talent, right? And this whole always that story of
Yeah.
Silicon Valley. It's this massive talent pool. You have some of the world's smartest and well educated, and
Yeah.
what are these things that attract and aggregate talent, and it's really around what are the opportunities for it, and um, with one of the things that people has become so much more mobile in their work life, right? If you're one of those incredibly smart, you could pick up, you could go work in any place,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And so regions really started looking at this idea of how are they, what's the stickiness of their community? What is it about
Right.
keeps people engaged and wanting to say, this is where I want to make home or stay involved in, things of authentic sense of place. And sometimes that's just natural beauty, right? Can
Yeah.
be a big part or um, other things, but the arts certainly can play a huge role in that, creating this sort of a
Yeah.
dynamic energy and interesting experiences for folks, and that that sort of was kind of thing that kind of brought me into a sort of more intellectual interest around what the arts can do, and I think that really could like working on economic development stuff you can there's policy changes, there's strategies you can implement, and you can
Hmm.
have impact, um, but just with the arts, right, you can really change the way people actually think. You can have this really deep impact on how people see themselves or see their fellow man, their how they see their society around them,
Yeah.
and so that that was just something that's so um, powerful to me. I think, and that's I think I just got drawn to the idea of like how can I play a role of helping just create more of those kinds of experiences for folks.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the cultural, so that's kind of migrated to that idea of cultural policy. How should communities, cities think about the idea of the role that arts are playing? And I'm thrilled that lots of places are
Yeah.
now starting to think of it not just like as some idea of as an economic uh, sort of thing. Of they think about it as like, oh, it's cultural tourism, or but thinking about it as ways of how do you build um, communities better.
Yeah. So okay, so you're also involved in the San Jose Arts Advocacy Group. What's some of the things that you guys are working on and bringing awareness for San Jose and the art scene?
Um, Yeah, that's a new effort. It's just what, a year or two old, I guess I'd
Hmm.
say, not too long, and a mix of different folks that are um, involved with making that happen. Ron Muriera and Peter Allen have taken a lead on a lot of the pieces of it, but it's been a nice mix of folks that are artists and art supporters trying
Yeah.
to, sort of raise the level or engagement of the arts in the area. A couple of things we did manage with city council this past year to get them to consider the idea of exploring a private percent for the art, basically a
Yeah.
way of creating more public art in the
Yeah.
city as it relates to development happening in the region. And it was something that the city of San Jose has consistently uh, kind of straight armed and pushed off the arts community around this issue, always sort of with the argument that it would push away developers and San
Right.
Jose can't afford that. And it was great. And certainly it was particularly great because lots of folks thought I think we were naive in thinking that we could uh, change council perspective on this. And
Right.
it was really positive to see that policy get approved or at least for study. So I'm hopeful that that'll be an item in the
And that's
future.
to yeah, it gets what's the little details? That's the what's the it's the percentage of tax is going to be changed. What's a little
Yeah,
bit about that?
it's kind of related to the fees associated with new development in San Jose. San Jose does have a percent for the art when there's a public infrastructure development, building a convention center or a library or something like that, that they carve out
Mhm.
of the budget, 1% of the overall
Yeah.
budget to go to public art. This is related to fees associated with developers doing private development,
Yeah.
that they would also have that requirement, and
Right.
that they could create public art on their site, or they could, contribute to a pool to have more public art throughout the city. So,
And this is happens in other cities, right? I mean, this is not unusual
not,
type of tax, right?
no, I'd say we're unusual in the sense of a city of our size and and wealth
Yeah.
to not have that type of policy in place. So that was a positive. Um,
What is some of the other are other cities also just doing 1% for those, or what's some like San Francisco or New York or
yeah,
San Diego?
it ranges. Some of them, 0.5%, some up to 2%.
Hmm.
Some of them have a whole range of different policy structures around it. How do you support your local artists, through a tool like that? Or
Yeah.
um, so it was good. It was great that the council kind of finally felt, you know what, it is time. We need to have uh, better urban design, and that
Hmm.
art should be playing a bigger role in the experience of the pedestrian or cityscape experience.
Yeah.
And so that was great. Um, there was also actually this year, you saw there was an issue with a, an exhibit that was put up at the museum at the airport
Yeah.
called "Holding the Moment,"
Hmm.
which featured it, was it 90, I think, different artists. It was three different slots of 30 artists put up on exhibit, and
Yeah.
there was an issue that had happened where the first installment of the first 30 got taken down early, uh, and it was kind of a curiosity what in the world happened, and what
Yeah.
was this issue around why the entire exhibit was taken down. And that was the thing that the arts advocates was able to try and uh, activate around, and try to raise public attention about this idea. And there was
Yeah.
one particular piece of work by local artist Eric Boy called Americana that featured a young person on top of a squad car with a American flag upside down,
Hmm.
flag code, a symbol of distress, and the cop car had broken windows on it,
Yeah.
and it was just part of this exhibition about holding the moment, and what was going on
Yeah.
with all of the social unrest of this summer. And uh, there was complaints with the city that a perception, some folks who interpreted the painting to be that the broken windows were blood splatters, and that this was
Hmm.
inciting violence against police officers,
Yeah.
and that the the city uh, ended up taking this stuff down based on that type of complaint. And and just it was really, they seemed like they stumbled forward into this and sort of dropped the ball around any sort of manner of an appropriate process when you're dealing with public art, public installation for
Yeah.
for for something like this.
It was kind of like, I mean, and tell me if I'm wrong. It was kind of like a way of like, okay, well, let's see. We could kind of not address this issue. We'll just end it early and put the right. Was that
That's
that?
about right.
That's
Yeah, that's fair enough.
that's how it kind of felt. Like
Yeah,
we don't want to say anything. We don't want to make any noise. We don't want to offend anybody. We're getting heat. We'll just change the show early, right?
that sounds like San Jose,
I
huh?
mean, do you think that that's what was kind of was going on?
Yeah, basically, yeah, yeah. It was an easy sort of way out,
Yeah,
and I think that's the type of thing that sort of that I'm hoping that with the San Jose Arts Advocates initiative and folks
yeah,
that calling attention to this idea of that's not how you deal with something that you put up around this idea of holding the moment,
yeah.
treating local artists' work, um,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and really undercutting the idea of who gets to have say in our community about these types of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
And it was a show that was curated or judged or picked by people commissioned from the community, right?
yeah, exactly. Yep.
And it was a show that was supposed to reflect what was going on in our time. So that piece kind of represents all those kind of things.
I thought the piece was fantastic. I don't know,
Yeah, I like it.
yeah. There's to me what it was reminded me of is the images of Mario Salvo on top of a cop car in the center of Sproul Plaza, the free speech
Mm-hmm.
movement
Mm-hmm.
at Berkeley, right? And
Yeah,
um, and the things that he's famous for saying. I forget how his quotes go around. You know, that the disgust becomes so much you have to throw yourselves on the machinery of the system to stop what is unfolding in front of you. And if that's so much this summer, right, that the nature
yeah,
of police violence and how fed up folks were and that needed to throw themselves
yeah,
on stop this machinery of state violence.
yeah,
And I thought that image depicted that very well. And I did see that idea of you know the cop car as the part of that machinery,
yeah,
and that it was damaged in that way. Um, and so it was, I think, a real shame to see that taken down. Um,
yeah,
and so I'm hopeful that like the arts advocacy group is able to keep like a spotlight on that,
yeah,
and uh, figure out ways to keep that public conversation going about what is this experience and who gets to be comfortable, whose comfort is
right.
prioritized in some of these discussions.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right, man. Well, we didn't touch too much on San Jose Jazz.
Nor the earthquakes.
Are the earthquakes? Yeah, new season opening up in April. I think it's looks like I saw something in the feed. Yeah, we didn't talk about those guys. So we're both earthquake fans. Both attend the games for people out there. I feel like in some ways, what's the baseball team? The Chicago Cubs, Bears. What's the folks that always lost?
the
That's supposedly
the Cubs lost for decades. Yeah,
that had the hex of the goat or something like that, or I don't know what it was.
that's
I
right.
think we may be like that here, but we're hopeful.
Always, always.
Yeah. Hey, well, cool, man. I really appreciate you, Brendan, just taking the time. And then, like I said, I really appreciate what you're doing, not only with Sounds like Jazz, the way the programs, like especially before the pandemic, and even online, that so many times a week there's music being offered up for people to engage with, and I just really love what you guys are doing, and I thank you for that, and especially what you're doing for really for advocacy for the arts, and for the community, and even leading, chairing, co-chairing, the District 3 board. I just really appreciate all you're doing.
No,
So
thanks, Daniel. It's appreciated, and likewise, what you've been doing with content is just exceptional and has been a huge contribution to our local community. The podcast, I remember I've listened. The very first one you did was with Frank
oh yeah, it was fun. Yeah, that was a long time
Academic
ago.
Coffee, and I remember at
Yeah.
that time just think this is just really great to have conversation. It's a great thing that you've done during the pandemic to
Well,
create
thank
these
you.
opportunities to folks to chat about what they're up
Yeah, well, I just, and like you're one of the people in our region that I think is, inspiring. Like your story is inspiring. I mean, like the connections, the path that your road has led you to, and seeing the things come together from, doing kind of economic development, city planning type stuff, but mixing it with the arts, and then now what you're doing to see those things come together. And like we were saying earlier, like being a barback, just I
front.
think that's encouraging for a whole community. And that's what's great about San Jose, right? You can get involved, right? You can be a part of shaping a city, you know. And I just thank you for what you're doing to help shape our city.
Nah, thanks a ton.
Cool.
Keep
Yeah.
on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Yeah. Okay.
Right on.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Go Quicks.
Yeah,
All
for quick
right. Bye.
stay. Bye.
To find out more about San Jose Jazz events, education opportunities, festivals, and concerts, go to their website, sanjosejazz.org, and follow them on Instagram at San Jose Jazz. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Visit our website to become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the local creatives. This episode's music is Time Alone by Mild Monk. Follow him on Spotify and also on his Instagram at Mild Monk Music.